This is ABC7 News at 7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you.
I think there's blame on both sides. You look at both sides. I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it. He's a good person. He actually gets a very unfair press in that regard. But we'll see what happens with Mr. Bannon.
A wild week in Washington hardly covers it, from President Trump's comments on Charlottesville to another shakeup in the president's senior staff. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alan Cohn, and welcome to ABC 7 at 7. We'll have more on the Charlottesville situation and the president's reaction to it in a moment, but first, our top 7 stories at 7. We have seen what can happen this week when there are protests over the proposed moving of Confederate monuments. The next chapter could be in Bradenton, and county commissioners want to be prepared. Commissioners want to make sure the violence we saw in Charlottesville, Virginia, does not happen here. They are considering temporarily removing the Confederate monument just outside the Manatee County Courthouse and placing it in a safe location until the community decides where to go. A protest involving those against the monument and those who want it to remain will take place on Monday night.
It's just chaos. It has been used as a tool to divide this community. And for us to move forward and to keep someone from getting hurt, possibly Monday, we need to take action in this meeting today.
It's our history. It celebrates our veterans. Why would you be against our veterans?
Late today, county commissioners decided not to move the monument on the advice of their attorney, but it will be covered up at some point. The Manatee County Clerk of Court is taking extra safety precautions because of planned protests and demonstrations. The Clerk of Courts has decided to close the office and the Historic Records Library at 1 p.m. Monday to make sure employees and customers stay safe. The clerk's office plans to resume normal hours on Tuesday. A proposed bill in Tallahassee would make leaving a child unattended in a car illegal altogether. Right now, you can leave a child in a car for 15 minutes without the AC running. Ironically, it's illegal to leave your dog in a car with the windows up.
I think people become complacent, and that's when accidents happen. I think that they think nothing bad will ever happen to them and that they're invincible.
If the bill passes, it would go into effect next year. A mother and daughter in Sarasota are under arrest, charged with running a prostitution ring out of their home. 55-year-old Ann Dodge and her 30-year-old daughter Jennifer are being charged with offering sexual favors in exchange for money to an undercover officer. It was a month-long undercover investigation by the Sarasota Police Department's Street Crimes Unit. Police say they made a bust after a tip.
It's very sad and unfortunate, and that's why we definitely encourage the community to reach out to us and provide us with those Crime Stopper tips, because without that, this case would never have been investigated.
Police say the investigation continues. An update now on the case of a former Sarasota County Sheriff's deputy. An outside judge has been requested to replace Judge Thomas Krug in the trial of former Deputy Frank Bybee. Krug recused himself from the case earlier this week. Bybee is facing 25 charges, including attempted murder and fraud, after a 79-year-old woman reported he tried to kill her. His trial is scheduled to start next month. Florida added more than 32,000 jobs last month, but the unemployment rate remains at 4.1%. That makes it below the national average of 4.3%. The unemployment rate in Florida remains at its lowest level since July 2007. Nearly 300,000 people entered Florida's labor force in the past year.
We're seeing job openings across the state. We're seeing people continue to move to our state. So we know that businesses are confident in their ability to grow and prosper here.
As we reported earlier this week, employment is booming in South County. Today, the Florida Highway Patrol remembers one of its own killed in the line of duty 30 years ago. On this day in 1987, 28-year-old Trooper Jeffrey Young was on a traffic stop on I-75 in Manatee County near the very bridge that now bears his name. Young found cocaine in a car and was killed during a struggle with his killer. Today, Troopers Young's father and former partner were both in attendance.
Everybody else's life was more important to him than his own life, and I mean that. And that was part of what was going on when this all went down.
Trooper Young's killer, Daniel Burns, was convicted of murder and sentenced to death. He is still on death row today. Now let's head over to meteorologist Steve Newman for his first alert forecast. Steve.
Thanks, Alan. What a beautiful sunset I think is about to happen across Sarasota Bay, as you can see there with the current temperatures on top of it. 86 the temperature. The heat index about 4 o'clock was 100. We're now down to 93, and it is going to be a sultry night as our winds become calm overnight, and it's not going to get out of the 80s until well after midnight. Our official high and low are pretty close to normal for this time of year, right on the money for the high temperature, but it did feel a little warmer than that because of the high heat index. Now, our visible light satellite, we're losing it with the sun going down. You can see some strong storms to the north and some over Hardy and DeSoto County, and they're showing up clearly on radar with a lot of lightning right around Arcadia heading up to DeWitt. Seem to be on the diminishing side, and we should see that trend continue overnight. Quick look at the tropics, and the right-hand portion of your screen is an area of disturbed weather that is heading toward Florida, but I don't think it's going to develop into anything. And down there in the bottom, this is Tropical Storm Harvey. It's got a lot of wind shear. It has 40-mile-an-hour winds, but I don't think it's going to amount to much. Well, here's our overnight high-resolution futurecast showing the storms thinning out, winds becoming pretty much calm, meaning it's going to be a still, kind of an uncomfortable night with temperatures only cooling off into the upper 70s about 3 or 4 in the morning. Coming up in just a few minutes, I'll have a complete look at the tropical weather outlook, including Tropical Storm Harvey, and what we can expect with the eclipse on Monday, which I will be watching in Tennessee.
Jealous. Thanks a lot, Steve. And still to come, a week we won't forget, and the response earning President Trump a rebuke by members of his own party when we return.
It's rainy season on the Suncoast. Storms can pop up at a moment's notice. Sometimes it's just rain. Sometimes it's much worse. When there's the potential for severe weather, you need to know fast. Trust ABC7 First Alert Weather to get you the information you need right away. We focus on the storms that impact where you live, and we're committed to alerting you with important information as soon as we get it. When severe weather strikes, trust ABC7 First Alert Weather. We're here for you.
Attention blood thinner users. If your loved one took Xarelto or Pradaxa and suffered serious internal bleeding, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. The widely prescribed blood thinners Xarelto and Pradaxa have been linked to a number of dangerous side effects, including internal bleeding, gastrointestinal bleeding, kidney bleeding, stroke, brain hemorrhaging, and even death. If you or a loved one suffered any of these injuries after taking Xarelto or Pradaxa, call right now. You may be owed significant compensation from the manufacturer. Thousands of blood thinner users may have been exposed to serious risk by these dangerous medications. If you or a loved one took Xarelto or Pradaxa and suffered serious internal bleeding, call right now. Call Nightline Legal to speak with an experienced attorney for a free consultation. If we don't win, there is no fee. There are time deadlines to file a claim, so don't wait. Call right now.
Call 1-800-554-3987. Again, that's 1-800-554-3987.
If you're only hungry for a slice of apple pie, why buy the whole pie? And you certainly wouldn't want to pay for an all-you-can-eat buffet. So if you don't use your cell phone that much, why get charged for a plan that's too big, or even an unlimited plan? Luckily, there's still a wireless company that shares your values. Welcome to Consumer Cellular. Our average customer pays about $25 a month for everything they need. Many pay even less, as plans start at just $10 a month. You'll get a straightforward bill that's easy to understand, with no surprises, and all the attention you deserve from our friendly customer service team. No wonder Consumer Cellular has received J.D. Power Awards for highest customer service. Plus, if you're an AARP member, you'll receive special discounts. It's easy to switch. You can even keep your phone and your number. And now, for a limited time, get a $20 credit on any new line of service. Call 1-800-468-1930. Go to consumercellular.com or visit a Target store today.
Check out mysuncoast.com/dining, your guide to the foodie lifestyle.
President Trump has been in office for 30 weeks now. This may have been the toughest one, from the clash between white supremacists and protesters in Charlottesville to the overwhelmingly negative criticism of the president's response to it by members of his own party. CNN's Jeff Zeleny has the story.
President Trump defiant in the wake of a growing backlash over his combative response to deadly violence at a white supremacy rally in Charlottesville.
Jews will not replace us!
I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it.
Two sources tell CNN the president is moving forward without regret, believing firmly that the media and East Coast elites are unfairly upset about his remarks.
What about the alt-left that came charging at the, as you say, the alt-right? Do they have any semblance of guilt?
But the president's words have caused a major break between him and some of the nation's top business leaders. 3 executives tell CNN that after the president's off-the-rails press conference on Tuesday, CEOs serving on the president's Strategic and Policy Forum decided to dissolve the group. But before they could make the announcement, the president acted first, tweeting that he is dismantling both his policy and manufacturing panels, despite boasting 24 hours earlier about having many business leaders to replace the CEOs who were distancing themselves from the White House. The revolt doesn't stop there. 5 armed services chiefs also countering their commander-in-chief with public condemnations of white supremacy on Twitter, although none mention President Trump by name.
I don't believe that you can be a fine person and a white supremacist. They're mutually exclusive. Can't use them in the same line.
Many Republicans also denouncing the president's remarks, although the majority of the party and its leadership have not explicitly condemned Mr. Trump by name.
You know, the president speaks for himself.
Within the White House, many of the president's aides have privately expressed frustration, but there have been no resignations. And sources tell CNN it's a safe assumption for now nobody is stepping down. Chief Economic Advisor Gary Cohn, who is Jewish, is said to be disappointed and embarrassed, while the president's Jewish daughter and son-in-law have yet to comment.
I stand with the president, and I stand by those words.
Vice President Pence, who is abruptly cutting his international trip short to return to the U.S. today, defending the president, but declining to answer direct questions about his remarks. The fallout comes as hundreds gathered for a peaceful march and candlelight vigil at the University of Virginia campus, the very site where white supremacists carried torches and Nazi flags that led to the violence.
Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
The Charlottesville community coming together to heal and pay tribute to Heather Heyer, whose mother had this message for those who hate.
They tried to kill my child to shut her up. Well, guess what? You just magnified her.
How is this all playing among Republicans and Democrats on the Suncoast in a moment they gather at the trapezoid?
When you want to get away from it all, to a place where you can do everything, or nothing at all, surrounded by natural beauty and all the modern amenities you might desire, then you'll want to be here at the Wannabe Inn on the beautiful shores of Manasota Key, Florida. To plan your escape, log on to wannabeinn.com.
The following message is brought to you by Mesobook.com.
People who have been diagnosed with mesothelioma have many questions. How did I get this disease? What are my treatment options? How will this affect my loved ones? You need answers, which is why we offer a free book written by medical professionals who have treated mesothelioma.
Call toll-free at 1-800-777-1366 or go to mesobook.com.
This is important news for women who were administered chemotherapy intravenously for breast cancer and then suffered permanent hair loss. Some women administered the breast cancer chemotherapy drug Taxotere have suffered from permanent hair loss on scalp, eyebrows, and eyelashes. If you suffered permanent hair loss after chemotherapy for breast cancer, call the law offices of Davis & Crump right now to find out if you are eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Call now. Operators are standing by.
It's Lincoln Summer Sales Event here at Alex Karras Lincoln. Drive a brand new 2017 Lincoln MKC Sport Utility for $269 per month, or a 2017 MKZ for $299 per month. We have a great selection of certified pre-owned Lincolns. These vehicles have warranties up to 100,000 miles and come with complimentary roadside assistance. Alex Karras Lincoln, affordable luxury, winner of the prestigious 2015 President's Award, serving Florida's Suncoast since 1978. We're located 2 miles north of the Sarasota-Bradenton Airport on US 41.
Join the fun at the Weddings of Sarasota 17th Annual Wedding Show at the iconic Sarasota Municipal Auditorium on US 41. Sunday, August 27th from noon to 4. Enjoy food, fun, and entertainment with a runway show on stage at 3 p.m. $2,000 in Weddings of Sarasota dollars given out after the runway show. You must be present to win. Pre-register at weddingsofsarasota.com. Brides and grooms are free if registered by midnight on August 25th. Weddings of Sarasota. Register today.
Welcome back. President Trump calls it a working vacation, but he has certainly been busy. On Saturday, he blamed the violence and death of a young woman protesting Nazis and white supremacists in Charlottesville on many sides. On Monday, he finally called out the Klan and other hate groups, but on Tuesday, he claimed there were fine people on both sides there. Forensic investigators, by the way, are still looking to find anyone among the white supremacists, white nationalists, neo-Confederates, neo-Nazis, and militias who qualify as one of the fine people there. On Wednesday, President Trump was forced to dissolve several high-profile executive councils after the high-profile CEOs on them quit in protest. The Joint Chiefs of Staff all released statements saying they won't tolerate bigotry and racism in the military. The Republican chairman of the Senate Foreign Affairs Committee questioned the president's stability and competence. And today, President Trump fired Steve Bannon. Joining us for more is Christian Ziegler, Sarasota Republican State Committee man, Susan Nylon of the Nylon Report, and we welcome Jacob Ogles, senior editor of SRQ Magazine. Welcome to the Trapezoid.
Great.
You know, Christian, no surprise, I want to start with you.
Oh. Fantastic. I'm excited for the doom and gloom.
There's one tweet from Saturday that I really want your reaction to. The tweet goes like this. There is reason why our greatest generation kicked their ass in World War II. No room in America for racist and loser Nazis. That's by Christian Ziegler, State Committee man for Sarasota County.
I need to watch language maybe next time.
Yeah, really.
You know, I mean, in reality, there was more passion and moral outrage in that quote than anything I saw from the president this week.
Well, yes, but I will tell you that the president did start off with on Saturday, he denounced both sides. Now, it's easy, it's Friday now, it's easy to play, you know, what they call Monday morning quarterback, days after the event, looking back, reflecting, looking at the facts. We have more of the facts than we did on Saturday afternoon. So I think that the president did a good job right away denouncing both sides, saying this violence there's no place in America for it. The media and members of the left, that wasn't good enough, and they came out and they highly criticized him, said, well, he didn't specifically denounce these groups, and then he comes out Monday and does it, and then all of a sudden it's too late. And I think it's a bit hypocritical because when terrorist attacks happen and other events like that, you do not see that the media going to the Democratic Party and Democratic members of Congress and Democratic president at the time asking them to denounce every single group on the other side. So it's a little hypocritical. I think the president did a good job denouncing both sides. He did eventually come out and say, well, these are the groups that were involved, shame on them. And really, Nazis, what I said in that tweet, I honestly believe. My grandmother was in a concentration camp. Her sister passed away in one over in Yugoslavia. They were working in them. I think Nazis, they lost on a world stage, and I don't support them. I don't think they have any place, but they do have a right to assemble if they want to assemble and spew their hate. But I think that it's disgusting, and I don't think anyone on the Republican Party side would ever support Nazism.
Susan?
He said so much. It's okay. I don't know what to respond. Let me remind the words of Benghazi when President Obama waited 24 hours or tried to wait 24 hours to come out after he gathered all the information. He was pummeled with the fact that he didn't come out immediately and declare it a terrorist attack. And he was crucified long after that because what he said was not completely accurate. So let's not talk about hypocrisy because you get it on both sides. However, he didn't just come out and say, I denounce them. He took it right back, like within an hour later with a series of tweets, basically unraveling what he had already said. And a lot of people doubted his sincerity.
Well, but when you look at that event, for example, I mean, you know, you had both sides. You had the Nazis, obviously, they want to hijack some rally that was going on that wasn't really for them, but they went and started promoting it. But then you had Antifa, and these guys show up in mass. They show up with baseball bats. They didn't kill anybody. So, well, okay, Jacob. I mean, how quickly could that have changed? They were throwing rocks into the crowd. People were coming out with their head bleeding with open wounds. Anyone at that point could have suffered shock, and someone would have died. But yes, I agree with you. They didn't kill anyone. But that's that individual that killed. He's the one that needs to be responsible because we need more individual responsibility focused on.
Sure, he should be criminally held responsible. But I have a real trouble imagining a politician that qualifies as a statesman who would look at Antifa violence and then come out and say, well, there's probably good people hanging out with Antifa as well. And that's the problem. And what really got me about Trump, I mean, I think an important thing about this is the evolution of the story. Yes, Trump was getting beat up for his first comments not going far enough, and then he came back and he really loudly denounced the white supremacists and the neo-Nazis, but then, you know, he decided to bring the whole story back to life unprompted the next day.
All right, we are just getting started with this conversation, and we'll have much more on President Trump's tough week right after we get a check on First Alert Weather. Stay with us.
Credit card debt can ruin your life. If you owe $10,000 and minimum payments are siphoning away your paycheck each month, you can get debt-free in less time than you think.
I've paid $800 a month for the past 3 years and haven't changed the balance on my credit card.
Get debt-free now has a program to reduce your debt, stop the harassing phone calls, avoid financial ruin, and settle for less than you owe.
I feel like a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders.
You're pre-approved for our special hardship program if you owe $10,000 or more. Upon payment of your new lower balance, your debt will finally shrink until you are debt-free.
My family no longer has 30 years of payments ahead of us at 20% interest.
There's no fees until you see results. So call now, make one monthly program payment, and free up your cash. Resolve your debt.
Call 800-685-6422, 800-685-6422.
This is an important announcement. If you're between 50 and 85 and worried about your loved ones, you can still get affordable life insurance for peace of mind.
My life insurance coverage is guaranteed, and I was not required to get a medical exam.
I had high blood pressure and diabetes, and I got my coverage with one telephone call. No exam necessary.
I'm a smoker, and I wanted to take care of my family. I called to get my life insurance and my affairs in order. I wanted to do the right thing.
Call Final Expense No Exam Insurance. Your rates are guaranteed and will never increase.
I called and learned that this insurance cannot be canceled even if you get sick or gain weight.
And there are no restrictions on how my beneficiaries use the money when I'm gone.
Approval was easy and the price was right. I wanted to do this for my children.
Call 800-738-9812. 800-738-9812.
We've all heard how military veterans adjusting to the civilian world may have certain issues.
30. 70.
If only everyone had this issue. No matter what challenge they face, Easter Seals is here for America's veterans.
Our conversation on the events of this week will continue right after we get a check on First Alert Forecast with meteorologist Steve. Steve.
Thanks, Alan. If you thought it was hot today, it's going to be hotter tomorrow by a few degrees, and there'll be a lot more sun shining down on you, making it feel hotter. These are the heat index temperatures right now. It's cooled off from about a couple hours ago when it was 103, 104 in many areas. Even Sarasota at 4 o'clock had a heat index of 100 degrees even at that point. They've been cooled off a little by some scattered showers and thunderstorms that have passed in inland areas of the Sun Coast, particularly in Hardee and DeSoto County, beginning to move into northeastern Manatee County, but they're dissipating, and we should see a general decrease in coverage area as we move in the overnight. And one reason we're going to have more sunshine tomorrow is this parcel of dry air. You can see very clearly a beautiful swirl of an upper level disturbance, an upper air low, moving over the southern half of Florida, bringing in dry, that's the tan color air. That's up in the middle and high levels of the atmosphere. But down at the surface, if it gets warm enough, that moisture can punch up through that, which is what's happening right now. You can see the blue, the moisture air popping up into the mid and upper levels with the thunderstorms at the surface. Now let's take a look at the tropics, and things are heating up as we would expect at this point in August. We have an African easterly wave with a 40% chance of developing over the next 5 days. A more interesting area is Invest 92L, and we'll look at this more closely in a minute, but this is Tropical Storm Harvey that has formed, and it doesn't have a lot of favorable conditions for strengthening in the Caribbean. Its center is back here, but wind shear is blowing it, so rather than being stacked up, the top is being bent. So as long as that happens, it's not going to strengthen. So over the weekend, with 40-mile-an-hour winds now, it's going to stay about 40, 45-mile-an-hour winds until more favorable conditions occur in the western Caribbean, passing over the Yucatan Peninsula. There is a chance late next week that it could curve up and affect the Gulf Coast, but it's a long way away. We'll be following it very closely, as we will Invest 92L. Now, do not freak out when you see the spaghetti plot, because it's like making a beeline right for Florida. But you're not seeing the whole picture here. Most of the models are not predicting it to form a very strong central circulation, so it could just bring us some scattered showers, more moisture, but not a lot of wind. And we hope that's happening, but we'll watch it very closely. Now, the solar eclipse. Here is the path cutting from the Pacific Northwest down to South Carolina. John Scalzi will be right there. We has fair conditions. I hope it improves for him. I will be here near Nashville. Pretty good chance of clear skies there. And we can look at our GFS forecast model. Shows a lot of the country with clear skies. South Carolina not so much, but I prefer the European model. It's more accurate for the most part. John at that point would be in sunny skies, as would I, along with most of the country. Take a look at our local RPM computer forecast model through the weekend. Tomorrow with a drier air aloft, it'll limit the amount of storms we have, maybe a few well inland. And then Sunday, it moistens up again. You can see the coverage of scattered thunderstorms increases by 7 o'clock in the afternoon. If you're going out on the water, it should be a great day, but don't expect much relief with 92-degree Gulf temperatures. West winds at 10 knots, seas 2 to 4 feet, and bay and inland waters will have a light chop. Now, here's our forecast for the next 7 days, showing only a 20% chance of showers and thunderstorms tomorrow. It pops back up to 50% on Sunday, Monday 30%, then pretty much a seasonal average as we move into the middle of next week. But with that 20% chance of showers and more sunshine, that sun is going to beat down on us without a lot of relief. It's going to be a really hot day. Alan will be back with his panel in just a couple minutes. Stay tuned.
This is an important medical announcement. Xarelto and Pradaxa have been linked to uncontrollable bleeding and even death. If you've been prescribed one of these drugs and have experienced these dangerous side effects, you may be entitled to substantial compensation. Studies show that Pradaxa can cause more heart attacks than warfarin, and other countries have already issued safety warnings against this drug. Call now for a free assessment of your case and potential money damages. The call is confidential, there's no cost, and you may be eligible. Juries have awarded millions of dollars to Pradaxa victims, and thousands of Xarelto victims are filing their legal cases. Call the Drug Watch hotline if you or a loved one used Xarelto or Pradaxa and experienced uncontrollable bleeding, brain hemorrhage, or even death. You must call now.
Call 800-793-6055. 800-793-6055.
Are you getting the most out of your Medicare plan? Are you sure? Many people with Medicare are eligible for plans that include extra benefits in addition to those found in original Medicare. Benefits like dental, vision, and prescription drug coverage. Call now to see if you're eligible to enroll. The consultation is free with no obligation to enroll. In addition to hospital and medical coverage, at no extra cost, you could also get coverage for prescription drugs, dental, hearing, vision, and more. In many areas, plans with benefits are available with $0 copays for many services, $0 monthly premiums, or $0 deductibles. That's hospital, medical, prescription drug, dental coverage, and more included in one plan with premiums that may be as low as $0 a month. Call now to see if you're eligible to enroll. The consultation is free and there's no obligation to enroll.
Call 1-800-620-2254. That's 1-800-620-2254.
When my youngest, Addie, was 2.5, she was diagnosed with leukemia. When we first heard that diagnosis, you feel extremely alone. Walking in that Light the Night light with 6,000 people carrying lights, white for survivors, red for supporters, gold in memory of those who have passed. It's the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's hope that every year there are fewer gold lanterns. Your lantern will make a difference.
Start a team, join a team.
Help us light the night.
Welcome back. The Republican-controlled Senate rejected repealing and replacing Obamacare last month. A contentious battle about raising the debt ceiling and possible government shutdown is next month. Yet this week is being described as the president's worst week in office. Does our panel agree? And joining us for more is Christian Ziegler, Sarasota Republican State Committee man, Susan Nylon of the Nylon Report, and we welcome Jacob Ogles, senior editor of SRQ magazine. Some of the most ferocious reaction this week about how the president handled what happened in Charlottesville has been from Republicans itself, including the Senate Foreign Relations Committee Chairman Bob Corker, who was considered at one point as Secretary of State. Let's take a look at what he said.
I do think there need to be some radical changes. The president has not yet been able to demonstrate the stability nor some of the competence that he needs to demonstrate in order to be successful.
You know, it would not be unusual for a Republican to take a shot at a Democrat president saying that, or a Democrat taking a shot at a Republican president. But Christian, this was a senior Republican senator questioning the president's stability and competence. Mm-hmm. You say what?
I say that there's no doubt that there is a little bit of a hesitation, if you will, a little bit might be a soft term to use, between whether it's Republican senators, Republican congressmen, and the president. Now, Donald Trump, when he ran against the system, he ran against the establishment, and he ran against Washington, D.C. And you look at that in D.C., I think popular vote, he got about 4% of the popular vote inside Washington, D.C. So there's no doubt that inside the system, people on the Hill as well, they do not agree with the president on some issues. I think the president's put his head down. He's accomplished a lot that doesn't get covered because, you know, people want to talk tweets, people want to talk, you know, this thing that happened in Charlottesville, which is horrible, but that really kind of overshadows what he's doing, and we're not really diving into that. But he is accomplishing a lot.
But he has not accomplished next to anything legislatively. He has not repealed and replaced Obamacare. He has not yet passed tax reform or infrastructure. And the question is, how do you do that if you don't even have the support and the backing of your own party in the Senate?
Well, see, even the way you phrase that question is putting the burden on Donald Trump to pass bills. I mean, in 2010, when we ran for the House and Republicans said, give us control of the House, we will repeal Obamacare. Then in 2014, they said, give us the Senate, and we're going to repeal Obamacare. And then in 2016, let's have the White House, and we're going to repeal Obamacare. And the Senate couldn't get it done. So, you know, it's one thing, like the way the media and people that disagree with Donald Trump, they try to pin it on him and say, why didn't the repeal Obamacare get done? And really, you have to look at these senators, these 100 senators that are sitting there, that are casting that vote. They're the ones responsible for Obamacare not getting repealed.
Susan?
Yeah, except the fact that he promised that he would get it done within the first 100 days. That was his campaign promise the entire time.
He's still going to get it done, but he's got to put pressure on these guys. He's got to continue the pressure.
I would say that it's a large responsibility on him because he didn't actually include anyone. When you come into office and all you do are executive orders and you basically override Congress, you're not making a lot of friends. You're not giving an opportunity to actually work with the people who wanted to work with you.
He's got the backing of the American people, and that should be all that he needs.
To be well, I don't know when that came in, but to be fair, I think that whenever you have one of these folks that moves from the private sector directly into an executive position in government, there's always going to be a period where the relationship between legislators and the executive is going to be difficult. I think we saw that the first couple years of Rick Scott's administration.
Absolutely.
He had a really rough relationship with lawmakers. That did improve over time, although it's still not as strong as it ever was under a Jeb Bush or Charlie Crist or somebody that had been more involved in the public sector.
But I will point out, even when the relationship between Rick Scott and state legislators was not great, he was not tweeting and attacking them in the most personal ways.
This guy creates his own narrative problems.
Exactly.
There's no doubt about that. And from a PR standpoint, there is no way. I mean, that's been one of the greatest problems with this White House is they could never control the story.
He undermines every piece of authority that he ever gives himself.
I think that the president, you know, I will tell you where the president, I think he underestimated just how deep this swamp is. He came in, there's a lot of people inside the government that want to take him out that are still working inside the government. It's hard to see who they are, right? We have all these leaks. He's suffering leak after leak after leak. This is unprecedented.
He leaks a lot of it himself.
But that's because there's people, these career bureaucrats, that are threatened by him shaking up the system. But I'll tell you, meanwhile, you know, everyone talks about tweets, oh, shame on him. He won the campaign, he was tweeting like this. What happens is behind the scenes, he gets over 1 million jobs created, stock markets at the highest, manufacturing optimism's at its highest. So he's accomplishing stuff behind the scenes that people actually care about.
Okay, let's get for a moment back to Charlottesville in terms of how Republicans and Democrats, the general public in general, is reacting to what the president said. According to a new CBS News poll, it finds that 55% of Americans disapprove of the way the president reacted to the violence in Charlottesville, but 67% of Republicans approve of his response. What sense do you get here on the Suncoast about how the public is viewing this?
Yeah, and you know, I even saw a CNN poll today that showed 60% said they'd support Trump no matter what he does. So
60% of who?
Well, of Trump supporters.
Oh, okay.
Now, I think on the Suncoast, and I do think we have sort of a split between a very conservative level of Republicans and more moderate, more business-minded Republicans here on the Gulf Coast. I think that's always been the case. But the thing is, I don't think they're jettisoning Trump right now. I will say that I think his support is still there. The question is when there's another option that is a Republican option, how will he be able to keep his base together then? I think he's probably going to see a primary challenge in 4 years, though that's going to depend a lot on what happens in the midterms.
Christian, the sense I get by talking to Republicans around here is that there are at least two camps, maybe more. Some of them, really good, hardworking Republicans who have been involved in the party for many years, are really uncomfortable with what's been happening with this president and what he says and how he reacted to Charlottesville. But they're not going to say so. And then you have other Republicans like yourself who remain loyal, outspoken, and, you know, have his back.
There's always that percentage of Republicans that, you know, they have concerns, whether it's Rick Scott or whether it's Vern Buchanan or Donald Trump, that, you know, oh, are they too conservative, right? So there's always that percentage, and sometimes they're loud and they like to get it out there. I mean, I'll tell you, from my perspective, when you look at the grassroots, everything that's going on, like the media and the left and everyone going after Trump, it's solidified support for the president because we feel like we've been attacked for years. Now he's getting attacked. He's one of us, so we're all bunkering down. And I'll tell you, like, even, for example, the poll that you referenced there, and it was about his response. Well, one poll that you haven't brought up yet are removing these Confederate monuments, which I'm not like a big Confederate fan or anything. I mean, I grew up in the South, born in the North. I'm not like a Confederate sympathizer, but 62% of Americans, that's all Americans, 62% say don't remove them, leave them. And I mean, that's a poll that shows that the American people, they think it's silly really what the other side's bringing up, but they're getting all the media attention. And from my side and other Trump supporters, we say typical media, typical left, focusing on stuff that's just simply not true.
Susan?
I got to tell you, though, you keep saying that it's media and it's the left. There's a lot of Republicans out there, a lot of Republicans who have been critical and have stood up against Donald Trump. Mitt Romney today
again, part
came
of
out and
the
said,
establishment, yes. So there's that
okay,
percentage of the establishment.
But let's keep that in perspective, that it's not just the left and it's not just media. It's a lot of people who are really questioning, yes, great, the establishment. Now we've separated the establishment from the Republican Party. But that's not the point. And I got to once again say, Trump is his own problem. He does more media on himself than anybody. He has Trump TV now. That's 24/7 Trump.
I want to get to one more issue while we have it, and that is, at least we could start talking about Steve Bannon, who has really been, I don't know if everybody knows who Steve Bannon is.
He's a Sarasota guy.
He's a for about 5 minutes, I would say.
Was a Sarasota guy.
You know, Jake, what sense do you get in terms of now that Steve Bannon is out of the White House?
Well, you're seeing some immediate reaction when you jump on Breitbart and some of the more nationalist-leaning sites that are reacting very negatively to this news. That said, where are they going to go? That reminds me of when Jesse Jackson would get really mad at Bill Clinton. Well, that's great. Come convention time, he was giving a speech in favor of Bill Clinton. He's got nowhere to go. That's the problem with the nationalists. I mean, this is as much power as the nationalist wing of the party has probably ever wielded.
And we want to pick up on Steve Bannon, but we do have to take a commercial break, so we'll be back for final thoughts in just a moment.
When you want to get away from it all, to a place where you can do everything, or nothing at all, surrounded by natural beauty and all the modern amenities you might desire, then you'll want to be here at the Wannabe Inn on the beautiful shores of Manasota Key, Florida. To plan your escape, log on to wannabeinn.com.
I heard about the Dotoli Cancer Center through friends of mine who had been treated here and were very pleased with the treatment.
If there is prostate cancer, we at the Dotoli Cancer Center will find it using 3D color flow Doppler ultrasound.
And that helped precisely identify where my cancer was. I can tell you that you will not find a finer, more professional team of clinicians anywhere in the world.
Attention, Americans eligible for Medicare. Are you getting all the benefits you're entitled to? Did you know there may be money available to lower your medical prescription costs? Call Health Markets and we'll tell you if you qualify.
Hi, I'm Dr. Martin Jeetsi. It's a new Medicare year. That means more changes and more confusion. The key question is, what can you do now to ensure you get the care you need in the coming year?
Call Health Markets today. You may qualify to save money on prescriptions. We'll help you find plans that may cost less, cover more, and could even lower your prescription costs to increase your savings. We help you find all the benefits you're entitled to, and we do it at no cost.
Make sure you have what you need to get the care that's right for you.
Find out if you qualify to receive extra help with your prescriptions. Call the number on the screen now. Representatives are standing by.
Watch ABC7 wherever you are. Just search ABC7 on your streaming device to keep up with the Suncoast from the comfort of your couch. Download ABC7 now to watch us on TV anytime you want. ABC7, we're here for you wherever you are. Start your day with a new Good Morning Suncoast team. Weekdays starting at 5 a.m.
Some say this week will stand out in history. Our guests join us right now for final thoughts. And Christian, I wanted to start with you because you know Steve Bannon. You're close to people who have worked with him. Did you see this coming? Or, do you think it reached the point that he had to leave the White House?
I see kind of two sides here. And, you have General Kelly comes in. And when you bring a new CEO on for any organization, I'm a big believer in empowering them, letting them pick their team. It's important that they pick whoever's in whatever role. So I know there was disagreements with Bannon and Kelly, but then on the other side, I also really enjoy, there's been some pictures of Bannon in his office, and he's got a whiteboard behind it, and he's got every one of Trump's campaign promises checked off if it's happened, not checked if it hasn't. And I just know from, mutual contacts that Steve is a hard worker. He fully believed in the president's agenda, and he had his head down, and he was always focused on it. That's why you didn't see him out in the media, you didn't see him on the news shows, because he was focused on executing.
Susan, since the beginning of this administration and even during the campaign last summer, Steve Bannon has been a boogeyman to the Democrats.
Oh, yeah.
Deservedly so or not, what does his departure mean for you? Does it mean a change in direction from the president himself?
I think the influence of Bannon is definitely a change in direction, because I agree, he was really quiet and he kept out of the media, but that doesn't mean his influence wasn't pretty powerful. I'm glad that he's gone for lots of reasons, more than just everything that he represents, but also the fact that there needs to be some kind of structure in place. Whether I like the fact that Trump is president or not, there needs to be protocol, and Kelly needs to be the person to do it. You cannot have a focused administration on anything if it's like that.
Jacob, at least on the Suncoast, how do you get the impression that people are paying attention to what is happening with these events every single day, or are they just looking at the headlines and either they're interested or they're not?
It's hard to say. I do think that in the political junkie world, everybody knows all the personnel decisions that are happening in the White House. I think they're paying attention to the little moves. They have deep feelings about Steve Bannon, about Sean Spicer, about all the people who have come, about Kellyanne Conway, all the people who have stayed. I wonder how much that really matters and how much that translates into actual expectations in the electorate as a whole.
All right, we will have to leave it there, but before we go, we want to talk about the story that we did last night, the impact of head injuries from the NFL to high school. According to a recent study, 110 out of 111 former NFL players were found to have CTE, a degenerative brain disease. The NFL is having refs call penalties for helmet-to-helmet hits and fining players as well. There are new helmets coming out that provide more protection to players, and we asked you what you thought about kids playing football and what can be done to make the game safer. Matt says, many of my friends and I have permanent injuries from high school football. Not worth it unless you have a real chance at a scholarship. Maybe not even then. But RJ says, one phrase to parents that cry, grow a set. If your kids are playing football, he's tough enough to do so. And on the other side of the brain, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. RJ, I think the point of the scientific evidence is that it does kill you. You don't have to grow a set to understand that. If you'd like to join the conversation on tonight's topic, just visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/news@7. And FYI, you can watch past discussions on demand. They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. I want to thank all our guests for being here tonight. Christian Ziegler is Sarasota Republican State Committee man. Susan Nylon is with the Nylon Report. And we welcome Jacob Ogles, who is the senior editor of SRQ Magazine. When we return, we'll have a final look at your first alert weather, plus another fatal incident in Europe. We'll tell you what happened when we return.
This is important news for women who were administered chemotherapy intravenously for breast cancer and then suffered permanent hair loss. The chemotherapy drug Taxotere has been linked to permanent alopecia or permanent hair loss. Some women administered the breast cancer chemotherapy drug Taxotere have suffered from permanent hair loss on scalp, eyebrows, and eyelashes. The FDA has urged doctors and the manufacturer to warn women administered Taxotere of the risk of permanent hair loss. If you or a loved one were administered chemotherapy intravenously for breast cancer and suffered permanent hair loss, you may have a right to a cash award and medical expenses. If you suffered permanent hair loss after chemotherapy for breast cancer, call the law offices of Davis & Crump at the number below right now to find out if you are eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Call the law offices of Davis & Crump right now. Our first consultation is free, and we don't get paid unless you get paid. Call now. Operators are standing by.
You studied hard, went to college, and achieved your dream, but it turned into a financial nightmare. If you have federal student loans and you'd like to reduce your payments, get more time, or have your loans completely eliminated, then we have good news. With one call to Student Loan Relief Services, you can find support and guidance. We've already helped thousands of people, and we can help you too. If you have $10,000 or more in federal student loans, you can qualify for payment extensions, payment reductions, or you may qualify to have your federal student loan completely forgiven. Call Student Loan Relief Services now to find out about your options. Take control of your finances and get out from under this burden. One of our student loan experts has the answers to your questions and great solutions to ease your financial burden. We're here for you. Call Student Loan Relief Services now.
Call 800-759-0203, 800-759-0203.
Your primetime headlines are coming up in a moment, but right now let's get a final check on our first alert weather forecast from meteorologist Steve Newman. Steve.
Thanks, Alan. We had a beautiful day in many parts of the Sun Coast. Storms up over Tampa Bay early in the morning, and some of that spread southward across our area, but many areas didn't see any rain at all, but some inland areas got some pretty hefty storms. It's a beautiful sunset looking live out over Sarasota Bay, and the current temperature at the airport is 86. Dew point is 73 with a heat index of 93, down from 100 about 4 o'clock this afternoon. The radar shows things are beginning to ease up. There are a lot of storms out of the Gulf that have dissipated and some down over Collier. Looks like we have a severe thunderstorm watch warning just issued down around Fort Myers to Naples. These storms are also beginning to dissipate. They had a lot of lightning, but they're moving northward, and all evening long we'll see less and less coverage. Now let's take a look at Tropical Storm Harvey. Main center is right here, but look, most of the clouds are being blown to the west, meaning there's a lot of shear, and the storm needs to be upright to really strengthen. So over the weekend, it's not going to strengthen much, staying 40, 45 mile-an-hour winds. Better conditions with less shear as it moves toward the coast of Central America on Monday and Tuesday, and then it could enter the Gulf and potentially pose a threat to the Gulf Coast late next week, but that is way out there. Now, this is Invest 92L. A lot of people are talking about it, even though it only has about 30-mile-an-hour winds. But look at the spaghetti plot, taking a beeline, dead aim on Florida. As I mentioned earlier, this does not tell the whole story. It doesn't tell the strength or the organization, and we can look at our GFS model of wind and pressure. This is a Harvey down here, and this is the Invest. Look what happens. The darker the colors, the stronger the winds. It's really not a problem until it turns purple, but as it approaches the Bahamas, it really doesn't strengthen. So by the time it gets here, maybe some extra moisture, maybe extra clouds. That's why I am not terribly concerned about it right now. Also not terribly concerned about the eclipse, which will be at maximum coverage at 2:51. But look, you got 2.5 hours. Even if there are clouds, when it's at total this much coverage, you're going to be able to see a portion of it, even with variable clouds that we're expecting in our forecast for that day. Now here's our forecast overnight, showing the scattered thunderstorms dissipating. Drier air aloft will limit the amount of thunderstorms we have. Maybe some inland storms along a sea breeze front, but they come back and really increase in intensity as we move into Sunday. And now a quick look at our 7-day outlook. Shows only a 20 to 30% chance of showers tomorrow, but it bounces back with 50% chance on Sunday. Tomorrow is going to be a really hot day. Get your activity done in the morning because the afternoon is going to be broiling. Alan will be back with primetime headlines in just a couple minutes. Stay with us.
If you're only hungry for a slice of apple pie, why buy the whole pie? And you certainly wouldn't want to pay for an all-you-can-eat buffet. So if you don't use your cell phone that much, why get charged for a plan that's too big, or even an unlimited plan? Luckily, there's still a wireless company that shares your values. Welcome to Consumer Cellular. Our average customer pays about $25 a month for everything they need. Many pay even less, as plans start at just $10 a month. You'll get a straightforward bill that's easy to understand, with no surprises, and all the attention you deserve from our friendly customer service team. No wonder Consumer Cellular has received J.D. Power Awards for highest customer service. Plus, if you're an AARP member, you'll receive special discounts. It's easy to switch. You can even keep your phone and your number. So stop paying for more than you need and start your 30-day risk-free trial today. Call 800-457-2317. Go online or visit a Target store today.
This is an important medical announcement. Bard IVC filters have been linked to punctured veins and problems with migration. Anyone who's received a Bard IVC filter must receive medical monitoring and may be entitled to substantial compensation. If you have the Bard Recovery G2 or G2 Express filter, you are in a class of patients who should be compensated for some expenses. Call now for a free assessment of your case and potential money damages. This call is confidential. There's no cost and you may be eligible. Juries have awarded millions of dollars to people who should have been warned about the risks of the Bard IVC filters. Call the IVC Filter Hotline if you or a loved one has received an IVC filter and experienced a vein puncture or required medical monitoring. You must call now.
Call 800-329-3089. 800-329-3089.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. So I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Checking our primetime headlines, another senior White House staffer is out. Steve Bannon. Steve Nance has the reaction from Washington.
As the president buckles down at Camp David for meetings with his National Security Council, another major West Wing shakeup. Following weeks of speculation, Steve Bannon is out. A source tells CNN the president was furious following an interview where Bannon contradicted the president's strategy on North Korea. The firing comes as the fallout continues for the White House on two fronts. First, following Thursday's terrorist attack in Barcelona, the president sent his condolences, then tweeted out a reference to a widely debunked rumor claiming a general used bullets dipped in pig's blood to shoot Islamic terrorists over 100 years ago. Second, critics are still calling out the president for his Tuesday comments on Charlottesville, where he said both sides were to blame for the violence from a white nationalist rally. The mother of Heather Heyer, the 32-year-old who was killed while protesting, told ABC Friday that after hearing the president's comments, she will not talk to him.
It's not that I saw somebody else's tweets about him. I saw an actual clip of him at a press conference equating the protesters, like Ms. Heyer, with the KKK and the white supremacists.
And former GOP nominee Mitt Romney released a scathing statement on Facebook in which he calls on the president to apologize, saying in part, whether he intended to or not, what he communicated caused racists to rejoice, minorities to weep, and the vast heart of America to mourn. In Washington, I'm Steve Nannis.
Today, terror came to Finland. A suspect was shot and arrested, but he has not been identified. Police are also saying it is too soon to know if this is terror-related. An eyewitness describes what he saw.
He was just turning around and with his knife, flinging his knife everywhere, and people running in all directions. Horrible. I mean, we were just talking about what happened in Barcelona, and we were saying that we're in Finland, we're here, it's safe. And we were just talking about it. It was just, I don't know, but here, this is Finland, you know, it's neutral and we're safe, and then this just happens in front of our eyes. It's just horrible. And this woman lying on the ground, covered, but she's dead. She's dead. And she's covered by the police and the ambulance. Covered her body to do the investigation, to take the traces and what do you call it, the DNA and whatever. And you realize that you're walking past, and and then you hear from people that it's happened everywhere. It's happened in several places in Turku. It's just awful. You can just see this knife, this huge knife in his hand, and he's just stabbing. It's just awful.
Police are still looking for more possible suspects. A funeral was held Friday for one of two state troopers killed in a helicopter crash Saturday in Virginia. The two troopers were patrolling the site of violent clashes between white supremacists and counter-demonstrators. Both pilot Lieutenant H.J. Cullen and Trooper Burke Bates died at the scene after their chopper went down in the wooded area. Mourners said goodbye to Bates on Friday. Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe spoke at Bates's funeral. And it has happened again. A child found in a vehicle at a Florida daycare parking lot has died, this time in Escambia County, where authorities discovered a 3-year-old girl. She was rushed to a hospital but died. Police are treating the daycare and vehicle as a crime scene and are still investigating. And that's all the time we have for this evening. I'm Alan Cohn. Thanks for joining us and have a great weekend.